Today's episode is going to be a little different than the normal content that we schlop out for you, because due to the interns engaging in some sort of bipedal mating ritual in the coming weeks, that means that they'll be off to the Philippines. And after they left me out of their last trip to Hong Kong, this time, dog is going abroad. The process of bringing a pet along during international travel isn't the most straightforward thing, and our team met some challenges in doing so. But now that I've got my big boy pants on, let's get this party started. As you can see, we're traveling a lot heavier than we normally would on one of our motorbike trips, but the interns assure me that it's all necessary. Anyway, let's get some details down about how I was able to come along on this adventure in the first place. As with anything that involves international travel, there is a lot of paperwork involved, but thankfully much less than you might imagine. It just isn't super easy to navigate or intuitive, so that's what we're hoping to help with in this video. As I am what the Vietnamese may call mo con cha he hong qua, or a very spoiled dog, there wasn't much of a chance that I was going to get stowed in the cargo, so the first step for us was to get an emotional support animal certification, and to make sure to buy tickets on an airline that accepts such a thing. In Vietnam, that's only Vietnam Airlines, and in the Philippines, that's only Cebu Pacific. Most Vietnamese psychiatrists just weren't down when we called them, and we could almost feel the eye rolls through the phone, as it's really not a thing here. But as you can see here, you can get a certificate from a Filipino psychiatrist regardless of your nationality. They didn't even ask the interns, just where they lived. But this is where a big old problem arises, as this just isn't a thing in Vietnam. The female intern and I missed our flight, and the fat one had to go on ahead, as the Vietnamese staff at the flight check-in assured us that such a thing just doesn't exist, and we had to wait for a later flight after talking to a supervisor. Now, back to the paperwork. You'll need to get an export license from Vietnam, which is surprisingly easy to get and can be applied for online and then printed at the airport, and a slightly more difficult to get, but can still be applied for online, import permit for your destination country. Finally, no more than 7 days before the flight, a veterinarian has to do a full checkup and sign a piece of paper saying safe for export. We went to our local vet for this, and in a recurring theme of this video, they were uncomfortable doing the paperwork as we live in a district with very few foreigners, and they only knew how to get an animal in the cabin through a very expensive extra service. So, from a Facebook recommendation, we came here, to the Happy Pet Clinic in Tejo. So, if you're leaving from Hanoi, hit them up, they know exactly what they're doing. After a very long night and some stern words with the supervisor, we were set for boarding. Hanoi to Manila is just under 2.5 hours of flying, and despite all of the Filipino airlines being based out of Cebu, the chances are that if you're going to the Philippines, no matter where it is that you're gonna have to go through Manila. This is where we met up with the fat intern, and we carried on to our final destination, for now. As excited as I was for my first couple of flights, I gotta say, I wasn't a huge fan of takeoff, but the flight itself was pretty cool, and it's very hard to argue with some of these views. Also, I'm not a fan of the muzzle, but I get it, ferocious dog and all, need to ensure the civilians are safe. They only see my rugged exterior and not my soft and fluffy soul. And here we are, the city of Davao, the durian capital of the Philippines, and dare I say the world. And if you haven't tried a durian yet, it is certainly one of the fruits of all time. A little bit of fan outreach at the luggage carousel before heading off to our home base while we're here, a little city that is a short drive from Davao. Our final piece of tourist advice for this video will be to make sure that you get a SIM card as early as possible. If you're watching this video, you probably speak English, so there's basically no language barrier in the country. But things like ride-hailing apps are far less prevalent in most places, so having the ability to pull up maps and the like is kind of essential. It's very easy to do, phone shops selling SIM cards are all over the place and very cheap. Just scan the QR code on the SIM packet and fill out some basic info, passport number, the address where you're staying, or just arriving to. Take a quick selfie and some minor other steps that are clearly laid out on the packaging, and you're good to go. Finally, we meet up with the rest of the team to recharge on some real Filipino food, which is seriously slept on, and we'll touch more in coming videos. There's flame-grilled chicken, pancit noodles, sour soups, and some surprising fusions that prove Filipino food is severely underrated in the world food scene. So, quick recap. First, you'll need a dog. Then, a health check from a local vet within 7 days of the flight, an export permit, an import permit, rabies vaccines, and an identification microchip for the dog. and an ESA certification if you want to bring them in the cabin with you. This is all you'll need for basically any country in ASEAN, but make sure that you check for any differing special requirements in any other countries in the region. Join us in the following weeks as we get to explore some places around the Philippines, and you'll have to just trust me on this. No words really can describe how beautiful these places are. So, we'll catch you there. Oh God, I'm pooped, but the islands are so relaxing.